to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'd like to extend the sympathy of the Board of Elections to Tom on the loss of his dad, which happened since the last meeting.
Thank you.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided, as is required by Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, with respect to the Home News Tribune to publish the same. This announcement must be entered into the minutes of the meeting. For those attending the meeting today, please be aware that all board meetings are recorded via audio. This one? Make a noise.
Commission on the other end.
Roll call?
Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Frankel?
Present.
Yeah, he's okay.
Commissioner Katz?
Present.
Commissioner Moskowitz?
I'm present and would like to know who else is there.
Okay. I can tell you, Beatrice. Stephen Nyers from the warehouse. Michael from the warehouse. Valerie, the deputy administrator. Sharonda, deputy clerk. Linda, chief clerk. Maria, administrative secretary. Of course, Tom is here. Don and I, and Charlie Cradaville from the New Brunswick Today.
The audience.
And
Designated
the
audience.
chairperson.
You're welcome. Okay, adoption of the minutes of the October 8th meeting, October 13th, November 19th, November 25th, and January 7th.
I move we adopt all of the minutes as listed on the agenda.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Frankel?
Yes.
Commissioner Katz?
Yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz?
Sorry to be a pain. Did we receive the minutes after all corrections had been included?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Then yes, I vote for the minute.
Okay. Under old business, we have the MVC signatures. Tom, do you want to address that?
Yeah, just in the last meeting, you had asked for it to be put on for new business, and then we had said that we communicated with motor vehicles in terms of the signature pads, in terms of the ability for the signature on the pad that may not be reflective of a person's actual signature and the difficulties it might present in terms of mail-in ballots. So communicate with motor vehicles. They had internal discussions. They're supportive of new pads, but it is not in their budget, their department budget for 2021. They made suggestions that if there is legislation for early voting, that possibly including funding for pads as part of that bill would be a good avenue to effectuate a change earlier than later.
So that would be next year.
Well, I mean, the budget is usually done in June for the state budget.
Okay.
What would the new pads do that the old pads don't do?
Well, I mean, they talked about bringing in pads and stylus that we might encounter at convenience stores now that are able to take a more accurate signature than kind of the blotted version you might find now in motor vehicles. So, you know, in terms of replacing a larger, they talked about a larger pad in general instead of the smaller one, and a more advanced version that could capture a signature as signed.
I think the way that people sign it is going to be pretty accurate for the way they sign it, which is...
What has been, oh, sorry. What has been the return on the cure letters for these signatures? Is it 100%? 50%?
Not 100%. I don't have it. I can get you kind of I'd say guesstimation was like,
yeah,
it was probably around, I'm going to say around like between 30–40%.
Yeah, it was high.
Yeah. You know, and I would say if I get you an accurate number, it would be in that frame between 30–40% return of signatures,
So
cure letters.
For the way we review it, either 60 or 70% of the people were disenfranchised because they didn't bother to send it back and they didn't know they had to, or whatever, or we were right in terms of rejecting your ballots, one way or the other.
One way or the other.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? No? On that? Poll
One
work,
comment.
oh, sorry,
if I may.
Commissioner.
I'm sorry, actually, Mr. Lynch was going in and out. Was there any suggestion made by either the Motor Vehicle Division or our Board of Elections, just creating a very small palm card that's given to everyone stating your signature is important, sign carefully? I mean, something as simple as that, because I know you said that they didn't have it in their budget. Was that something you were discussing?
We did broach in the initial email in terms of better, I would just say, public outreach. So again, we can highlight that when, again, either as a palm card or as a flyer or just instructions that people highlight the fact that the signature, you would want it to match your signature that you would do normally.
I would suggest as one of the options is the sign next to each booth where the people were doing the rest of their motor vehicle transaction.
If they read that, but I know that Commissioner Engel has been discussing this for years at this point, it seems, and no movement has been made to help correct it, and I'm concerned. I appreciate the efforts that were made, but I would like a little bit more tangible evidence that we are working together with them, with Board of Motor Vehicle Division.
Beatrice, in my opinion, part of the problem is that the Motor Vehicles Commission, the voter registration is not part of their primary task, and although they may try to be helpful, they're less concerned about it, so we can keep pushing.
And I guess they've had a pretty hard time with closings too over this pandemic.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, poll worker seasonal pay structure.
Another item was brought up by both Commissioner Moskowitz and Commissioner Katz was regarding seasonal and poll worker pay structure. And that, in terms of evaluating what might be, possible increases that we can do. So again, I gave you like an attachment that kind of reviewed at least a concern, a concern in terms of raising it up to $20 initially. That may be a more a graduated increase. So not to have seasonals possibly be paid more per hour than current new employees in the board. And then also in terms of addressing poll worker pay structure as well. Just some suggestions in there in terms of possible paths forward, in terms of recommendations, in terms of how to structure it, especially tying it into possibly poll worker training in terms of like some of the online pieces and continued investment into poll worker training that we're doing, maybe tying some of the future increases to separate it out so that we can tie it to poll worker training.
Commissioner Katz?
Yeah, on the seasonal the seasonal and temp pay, I'm happy with Tom's suggested number as something to start with. So I'd like to move that we ask the freeholders to increase the temporary and seasonal pay to $17.25 an hour from the 15 minutes currently.
We have a second?
So just, Sylvia, I just need to, I'm sorry, Don was going in and out on that. Could I just hear that again one more time?
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
Dan, what I'm saying is, my motion is to increase this, is to ask the freeholders to increase the seasonal and temporary employee pay from $15 to $17.25 as per the sheet that we received by email from Tom earlier this afternoon, as his suggestion.
Okay.
You agree
I
to?
would second that.
You second it, okay. Roll call, Maria?
Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Frankel?
Yes.
Commissioner Katz?
Yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz?
Is that me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, the next item on the old business is drop boxes.
So wait, we haven't had discussion on Commissioner Moskowitz's The second part of what's on the email that we got from.
Well, it
from Tom.
addressed poll workers, and again, I had an earlier conversation with Commissioner Moskowitz following up, is that in terms of the state statute, it kind of sets it at $200 for the pay for poll workers per day. The county, in terms of knowing that certain poll workers are tasked with transporting supplies back and forth, authorizes $12.50 per travel back and forth between the clerk's office and the polling location. So again, in terms of the feedback that you were examining ways to increase it, there is legislation that would have increased it to $300 per day. That was amended down to $275 in committee, but that bill is still in committee and hasn't moved forward. So I don't know if that would be something to become law. Now again, the statute is quiet, and again, the county could on its own decide that it would want to supplement the $200 per day, but again, that would be an ask of the county to increase the cost for poll workers for an election.
Right now, the county is being reimbursed $200 a day, the $200 a day that we pay our poll clerks.
Correct.
So, personally, I don't mind waiting a little bit on that, but it's up to Beatrice as to whether she wants to discuss it further.
Well, the other topic that the Commissioner Moskowitz brought up in the past meeting was related to the transportation of supplies back and forth because of the increased mail-in ballots, that there is an increase in use of provisional ballots as well, and that probably that, if you want to say, that format, or at least that practice is probably going to continue in terms of more resources being needed to be transported from the clerk's office to the polling location. And Commissioner Moskowitz was saying that she would like to see an increase in that from the $12.50 to another number. And so, without getting too unwieldy, the suggestion in the document before you is to increase it to a $15 flat back and forth. So, if the commissioner so choose to make that request to the county.
It's up to you.
Commissioner Moskowitz, do you have any comment on that?
No, I believe that addressing it as we are, in general terms, does make sense and gives validity to the actions that a borough clerk can take to make things more equal, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
with the workers. Thank you.
Okay, we don't need a motion on that.
Well, if we're going to ask if we're going to ask the
Three owners.
county commissioners now, if we have to ask the county commissioners to do it, we should have a motion to that if that's what we want to do.
Okay. Who wishes to make a motion?
I will make that motion,
Okay.
or they put my name to the motion since the phrasing is not there in front of me.
Okay. And a second? No?
I can second that. We're talking about the $12.50 to $15. Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Roll call.
And this is just for discussion, this is that we are going to ask the county commissioners to increase to pay for the increase of $12.50 to $15, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Roll call, Maria?
Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Frankel?
Yes.
Commissioner Katz?
Yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz?
Yes.
Okay, we move on to new business, the administration reports.
Oh, no, we have drop boxes under.
What was it?
Oh,
Oh, the Dropbox, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make this quick. It was just from the prior discussion that I had reached out to the municipalities we talked about during the last meeting. Woodbridge had identified the Woodbridge Library for a second Dropbox, which it currently does not have. Sayreville Town Hall, we would like to put the drop, and again, if that's not an issue, just putting the Dropbox into the location where we had removed the initial one. And Old Bridge and New Brunswick are evaluating possible options within their town for a second Dropbox.
And the other towns will remain the same.
And all the towns and locations will remain the same at the moment.
Okay. Any comments on Dropboxes?
Is that in Perth Amboy, we're going to put make permanent the drop box in front of City Hall?
We have the two locations, one in front of the municipal safety complex and the other one in front of the town hall.
Are we going to keep both of them?
At least it was my understanding that we were putting two drop boxes in that location.
Yeah, I'm just talking, based on population, is Perth Amboy within if we're trying to work our way to a second drop box in towns based on population, should they want it, is Perth Amboy in the category for that purpose? I think it's a
I believe
mountain.
they would, and
I think
also
so.
probably, in terms of geographic and economic parameters set up within the legislation, probably fits as well.
Okay.
Tom, these additional drop boxes, do we have them in our back stock room, or do any of them have to be ordered?
No, we have them. We have all the boxes available.
Okay.
Okay.
And we have the replacement ones that need replacement, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
All right, now we can move on to new business. The Chief Clerk's report.
Okay, thank you. We have completed the election history for the general election and the Perth Amboy runoff election. We had a little issue with some of the ballots that we rejected. It's not showing the rejected status when we changed from received to rejected. The help desk was notified. Also, some of the reports that when we're running them, ballots that are rejected don't have a rejected code. Ballots that are accepted have a rejected reason. So there's a conflict. The information is not being provided correctly when we're running reports. The help desk is notified of that also. We're currently changing the voter status of the cards, the postcards that came back in lieu of the sample ballots and the mail-in ballots that came back undeliverable. Anybody who came back with an undeliverable or an out-of-county address is now changed to inactive. So the cards have to go out by the beginning of March. We're working on that. There's about 8,000 now since my report. Problem with that is when we generated the cards, it's supposed to populate the date sent. It's not doing that. And again, the help desk was notified. Poll worker training was up to date, and well, it's continuing. It's still being updated in SVRS from the general election. For the data entry for the MVC, currently there's, at the time of our report, there were 9,300 records to process. MVC online was 6,600. OVR, I'm being told now by Mr. Van Pelt, is 10,000 records, not the 1,200 I have. Staff is working on all 3 modules. When we first started, OVR was at 30,000 and MVC was at 20,000. So they're making a big dent in that. Then I just listed the recycling. Every year we have to do recycling for poll books and registration forms that were held for the retention period. I'm not going to read that, but that's the process that we're working on now. And that's a long process, so we've been trying to do it on the weekends, so it's not interfering with the regular work. And some of the seasonals that were off are helping us with that process also. And then the duties, I just wanted to bring to your attention now that with Frank Casey and Janice Pachuki retiring, we've reassigned some of the duties to other staff members. So Loretta Matthews will now be doing the Oprah requests and the public service requests, along with the federal mail-in ballots, which is data entry printing, which was a big job for Sharona to keep track of, so we've reassigned that to Loretta. She's been doing a really good job with that. Rita Gallagher will be doing the legal lookups, which is people that send in, looking for either way for divorces or adoptions. They're trying to contact the other party. So Rita will be doing that, which is a lot coming for that. And Andrew is now doing the prosecutor list and then the deletes, meaning death lists or people who moved out of county. That was his job duties now. And then I just listed all the upcoming dates that you guys need to know about.
Okay.
I have just one question. During the election cycle itself, with the start of the online voter registration, we were getting a lot of duplicates. What are we doing to weed out the duplicates?
The duplicates that were put in the system as a duplicate,
Well,
Janet,
the people that were registering that were already registered, or they were registered under Joseph, and then they registered again as Joe, or something like that.
Janet does the duplicates. Janet Kushner does the duplicates in the system.
So, is there some software that we use to pick that up?
No, there's no software.
So, when we enter it, Janet checks every voter against what's something might.
Well, if it's brought to her attention, she'll remove them in the system, but the current system doesn't have a reminder screen that shows anybody's in the system twice. Previously, we used to have, the previous administrator used to do those reports, and
SVRS is not,
it doesn't
has a lot of
reflect.
problems, I understand
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah.
But right now, if someone was already registered in their system as Joseph such and such, and if they registered again as Joe such and such online, if Janet didn't, if no one called it to her attention, we would have both of them registered at the same address, 2 registrations.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to figure out some way not to happen. There's this, this is not something that's, that we individually can do, but there's something with the acronym ERIC, E-R-I-C, and I don't remember what the abbreviation stands for, but it's a national, it's a combination of a number of states, now it's over 30, where the state can join and send their voter registration info and their motor vehicle info, and the entity will check it against lots of different lists, the Social Security death list, post office move list, et cetera, and send information back to in terms of providing highlights of duplicates of people that moved, et cetera, and then we can do that. So it's something that the state can do, and I don't know if it really requires legislation, but I looked at this online myself comparatively recently, and it's over 30 states, and it's not a Republican or Democrat thing. I mean, the closest things here is Pennsylvania and Connecticut and Washington, D.C. are members of it, as well as another almost 30 states. And the way I can see it there is the cost is comparatively small versus what would be saved by not sending sample ballots and other things to people that are for duplicates to people. So I don't know if we want to try to pass this up in some way and request that we get into it, because if we are obviously at this point have no real way, especially with the SVRS the way it is, to really pick that up, except that people bring it up.
Not all of it, but there is, like, there are times where you can put a voter record in, and then a pop-up's going to come up, it's a duplicate, but then there's times it's a different person, so it's not always accurate.
Yeah.
Well, to clarify is that if you put in a new voter registration record from OVR from that, it will populate and possibly tag someone that it has a similar information. But I think the criticism is that that's not 100% accurate all the time.
But then, like the people on OVR, you know they're in there multiple times. They've tried it. They don't think they did it right. They did it again. Some trying one was 10 times a person did it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't come up on the list together. So you would have to put the name in. Like you could take the first name on the list and then put that name in and do a search for that first name. Then they'll come up.
Yeah, but we have to search.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And then you have to take care of the record one by one.
I think we should at least ask the state level to consider joining this, because it's going to help us resolve a problem, or help. It'll be less work for us to try to find some of this, and
Unless there's a way our help desk, our IT can take our database and scrub it.
yeah, but I
That's a
don't
big
know.
process.
We can put that under.
Considering how helpful the help desk has been for some of these other
No, the
issues.
county help desk, they're
Oh.
very helpful.
Okay.
The county,
Well,
not
if we can come up some way that's somewhat automated so that we can pick up the duplicates. I know Jim Vogler, when he was around, did
Yeah.
some of that with his computer magic.
Yeah.
So,
He never gave us the formula.
no, but it's something that we should do, because it's this, otherwise it's giving us more work in terms of that. It's costing us more money, and we have records that are not really accurate. So,
Okay.
that's it.
Don, do you still meet in your committee by Zoom as far as the state committee?
They have haven't, we've gotten some emails. We're probably going to have a Zoom, when we do have a Zoom meeting, I will raise the issue of Eric. But I'm not sure that legislation is necessarily required. It's just that I think if the division, the New Jersey Division of Elections is authorized with that they could join. I mean, we're talking, based on what I saw in terms of prices, we're talking $30,000, $40,000 maybe, or maybe less, to join and get the benefits of it, and that's minor compared to what's going to be saved. I don't know, maybe even just our county, and there's 21 counties. So, I mean, I'll raise that when the Legislative and Legal Committee does meet on Zoom, because they're going to be something. The president suggested that each committee meet on Zoom, so hopefully that happens.
Any other comments on that issue, on that report?
I'm sorry, I'm good, I'm done.
You're done?
Yeah.
Can I, Sylvia, one question. Linda, the 20,000 and 30,000, can you just, 30,000, 20,000 with MDC?
That's what we started off with, 20,000 MVC and 30,000 OVR.
Okay, what are we down to now?
10,000 for OVR and about 15,000 for MVC since I last did the report.
Okay, and then, so mostly our staff and seasonal are doing this work?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Linda, for your
Oh,
report,
you're
and
welcome.
thank you for doing all those dates.
You're
That's very
welcome.
helpful. Okay,
Okay, I got reached out, John Mitch reached out, he wanted to change your polling place. And this is a permanent, this would be a permanent change, not just a change for, John Mitch, the Woodbridge clerk, actually reached out to the warehouse and wanted to do a permanent change for Ward 1, District 1 and Ward 1, District 11. Currently, we reside in the Woodbridge Firehouse. We'd like to move it to Ross Street Elementary School, number 11. He feels like it's been redone in, as far as the insides, and he feels like there's going to be more space. And then we'll have a better parking situation as well over there. So I wanted to bring that to you guys so that you guys could take that to a vote. We did go out, we inspected it. Everything is fine. It's actually a really nice place. And of course, the party chairs were notified as well. So he's just waiting on you guys to vote for a new polling place.
Have there been any comments back from the party chairs? Are they happy with it?
They're happy with it. He said that they're,
Both of them said
yes.
they were happy with it.
Yeah, that's what he told me. Yes,
Okay.
I only report back what he said to me. That's it.
any other comments before we vote?
Well, the question I had, which was just been answered, is why the change. The concept is it's a larger space and more parking. I have no problems with it.
Yes. Easier to get into, by the way, when we're delivering machines. That's another problem with the firehouse.
I'll make a motion that we move the polling locations for Ward 1, District 1 and Ward 1, District 11 from the Woodbridge Firehouse to the Ross Street Elementary School, number 11.
Second.
Roll call?
Chairman Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Franklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Katz?
Yes.
Commissioner Moskowitz?
Yes.
Okay. Administrative report next.
Mine is rather short, so I'll rely on the written statement, and if the commissioners have any questions, I'll be glad to expound on it.
I do. This Baton Rouge law and protecting information for judges, etc., how would that mechanically work for us, or how could we do it? I see they're talking about some discussion, but do we know anything yet? I mean, we have a situation here where the judges, etc., or at least, let's just say the protected people, they have to be registered somewhere, and they have to be able to go in to vote. So there has to be a list, at least if they decide to go in to vote, that they have to be on that list. And also, if they decide to, we need the information. So, has there been any discussion on it?
I mean, Linda probably knows about it better than me, is that there is kind of a mechanism now for domestic violence situations where someone doesn't want their name out in public. So that would kind of be the same kind of And again, it's very preliminary, so I don't have anything to kind of
So
like share with you.
what do we do for domestic violence?
The person has to
They
fill out an
either report it or-
application with the state. They have to go through this process. Once they become certified, they receive a card. That card's going to be reflecting it's a P.O. box. So when they want to register, they're supposed to contact our office. Only some of us have access to that record. The regular user can sit down and put the name in, it's not going to come up. You have to have administrative rights in order to see that person. But they do have to provide a residential address so I can put them in their municipality, ward, and district. I put them in the system. I flag it as confidential, and nobody can see it unless you have the administrative rights to see that person's record.
But for the poll
Well,
book,
most of them vote provisionally, and they'll write on the provisional affirmation statement, confidential voter. They don't give me their address on the statement. They give it to me. I update their record. And on the other side, with the county clerk, only the administrator on that side can actually issue a mail-in ballot if they choose to vote by mail-in ballot.
so they apply for a mail-in ballot, and
They
they
can.
put down confidential
Correct.
voter, and then so the clerk can
And
do
then
it.
whoever has administrative rights can look up that person's name and find their information, provide them the mail-in
And
ballot.
if they go in person, they're not in the list, but they vote provisionally, and they
Provisionally.
write the.
They write confidential, it comes
Okay,
back to
there's
me.
There's a methodology.
Their registration form is secured in the safe. They have to fill out a form so we can put them in the system, so we secure it in the safe. There's about a handful of them that we have in the system
Yeah,
currently.
If this, to the extent that this goes through, it's gonna be.
Judges, all the judges.
Well, we're talking about judges, prosecutors, et cetera. We're probably, law enforcement officers, we're talking a couple thousand probably.
Yeah.
Or do we have the capacity, well,
Yeah, well,
it's more work, that's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Is there, I don't know if there's any other way or suggestion that it can be streamlined, but I don't know, because.
Well, again, it's conversations with the marshal's
being
office,
discussed.
through the state, through the county.
So my comments might be premature, they're still trying to come up with something.
Yeah, because it's not just us, it would be other, but county entities as well, where you can, ask for said information. So I guess it's part of a collaborative effort with the county, so we'll have to work that out.
I run poll books and their name does not appear in a poll book. I run reports and their name does not appear in a report.
Yeah.
So that's the whole purpose of this.
I understand it's how when we have to do special handling for
Yeah,
a dozen maybe, or whatever the
Yeah.
number is, but this is going to be, if this goes through and includes police officers, we're talking several thousand at least. So, okay. I have a different question, if you don't mind. Tom, your first thing talks about the double voting for a Carteret individual. Do we have any status of the prosecutor's actions on the 9 fraudulent vote by mail ballots?
Continuing conversations with both the FBI and with the AG's office.
Because there's also, in addition to the 9 ballots that we know were fraudulent, there's I don't know, a YouTube video or otherwise of whether it's real or not. It's real whether it's dispositive or not of one of the candidates in there, at least alleged that they were involved, and if they saw a picture of the candidate and going to one of these houses. So it's still in process.
I actually spoke with them today regarding the runoff election as a background. But
yeah. And anything on the people fishing the ballots out of a mailbox?
that situation, again, still under investigation. Haven't heard an update from.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any comments on Tom's report, the administrator report?
No.
No.
No. Okay, we can move on. Commissioner comments.
I guess it's silent. I guess I'm starting. There were a few things that we discussed in executive session that we need to confirm or we should confirm in open session. One of them was confirming a continuation of our nepotism policy, And the second one was confirmation that no employees, full-time, seasonal, or temporary, who are being hired based on their party, in each instance they should be based on their party, are not hired unless they are cleared through the particular commissioner from the particular party involved. So those are things that we should confirm. If there's no objection, I'll just move that we have it on the record, I'll move that we do that.
I don't think you have to make a motion, Don.
Well, we have to, does everyone agree that that's our policies?
Yes.
Discuss that in closed session, correct? And we made a decision in closed session.
You can't make a decision in closed session, you have to do it in public record. You can discuss it in closed session, you can see where you want to go, but you have to put it on the record in public session, or else it's not.
You don't have to have a motion to put it on for public session. You could just say, coming out of executive session, this is what was discussed and agreed upon.
And I remember being told that in fact that had already been policy.
It is a policy, yeah.
So I don't know why the discussion is here, since the only thing would be if I'm going to say I don't like the idea and I think that that should not be. You understand? It's already there. I'm not sure why we want to make a motion.
Well, I want it on record that that's our policy. Both of those things are our
If it's not
policy.
already on record, I don't agree with the concept that all persons related should be immediately excluded. That's my point to you, and I said that in private session.
Okay.
So my concern is,
Well,
it's
okay,
already policy.
I don't.
That's what was explained to me, and I get that. I will accept that.
Okay, Beatrice, I'll withdraw the part about.
Never finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, finish, Beatrice.
Thank you.
You're finished?
Everyone, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll withdraw the part about the nepotism stuff. That's fine. I understand your point. That's fine. But on the hiring, has not been clear because it was not done. It was not done in the past election. So I do want that on record, and it's not something that's actually been done.
No, we've never had that in the past.
That what? What was the record?
The hiring, the clearance of the partisan employees' clearance by respective partisan commissioner for their party before any of these people are hired for either full-time,
Or
seasonal, or temporary.
Okay.
That's what we agreed on. That's what we were tentatively agreed on, but we have to formally do it at a public session. We can't just agree on something in executive session. So I'll move that we put that in.
So this is now a new policy decision?
We did not do this for the November election. And we didn't have that as a formal policy. And I think we should have that as a formal policy, so it's clear that it's done.
If we have done a formal policy, we need to have all the variants that could come up be described and put into that policy rather than a blanket statement. What if there was a timeliness and somebody needed to be put into place and communication was stymied? I'm not saying that that's a regular and would happen that often, but just to make a blanket statement of policy makes me uncomfortable.
We should not be hiring a Democrat at any level without clearance by Beatrice, either you or Dan. We should not be.
I got that. I understand the
right.
point.
We should not be hiring a Republican.
I don't like having a policy that's not clearly discussed with all the possibilities explained. And I don't think that that was the case. Sure, the blanket statement makes a lot of sense. That's why you have the 2 and 2 set up that way to keep things clear. I have no problem, and I'm not disagreeing, Commissioner, that that's what should happen. When you use the word policy, I want it to be more formal for my own sake. You understand? I'm not disagreeing with what we've discussed, and we can put that into the minutes that it was discussed. discussed like this, but to make it a policy, I'm exception to that because I like to see the formality of the words. That's all.
Our
Am I
employee,
the one that, am I not getting something here, which is why it's bothering me?
our employees need specific direction from us as to what they're supposed to be doing. By putting in a policy, then they have that direction.
So then why do you want another policy?
Because we don't have a policy for this, and we didn't follow this in the November election.
May I make a suggestion then? What we probably need to do is, if you don't mind, is to, at the next meeting, bring the existing policy that is, if it is in writing, or if it's not in writing, reduce it to writing. And then we bring it to the commissioners for their approval.
I'm fully fine with that.
Yeah, that's okay.
And when we do it that way, this way it'll be a policy that will be formalized, but it'll be with the administrator. My only other issue that we need to talk about, not now, but we should talk about it when you say the relative of the employee. I think we need to define that term, okay? Because there's so many different machinations of what that means. Is it the second cousin? Is it the third cousin? Is it the ex-brother-in-law? Is it? I mean, I just want to make sure if we're going to reduce this to writing, then let's really reduce it to writing. Okay.
My understanding is the nepotism policy has been in place. I haven't seen it. Do we have is it in writing?
Yeah, we did institute that policy back when we were on Jersey Avenue. I don't know if anybody has it in
Tom,
writing.
maybe if we can see if we can find what we have, and then maybe it covers it already.
If there's something. in the
There
minutes
was
that-
some, relatives involved.
There's a policy, it's in the minutes, I don't know how well, again, I won't comment because I'll present
Yeah,
it.
well,
See.
that's
we
fine.
have to
Let's see what we got, and then we'll deal with it.
Okay.
We have time to do this next
Yeah.
month anyway.
That's fine.
Okay, commissioners?
That's
Yes, thank you.
the only comment I have is Linda, I don't know if we formally gave you our condolences on your parents'
I
death.
think you did.
You did,
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
I wasn't here, but thank you.
You and Maria, yeah, Linda and Maria.
Yeah.
Public comment? Charlie?
Good afternoon, members of the board. Also want to start with sincere condolences to Mr. Lynch and everyone else who
So
lost.
I'm having difficulty hearing.
Can't
the
hear you,
public.
Charlie.
I'll speak up. Just starting with sincere condolences for everyone who's lost a loved one. First question is about that executive session. When was the executive session of the board?
At the last meeting, which we announced was the executive
Right,
session.
okay.
That was
So there hasn't been a second one since then. Okay. On the Daniels Law issue, I think that Commissioner Katz, your comments are not premature. In fact, this is the type of thing that should have been discussed by the legislators before they passed this. And, I have concerns about it. I certainly wonder if Spencer Robbins would have been caught for, registering to vote in a place that was not his residence, if he had been protected by this law. And I question why people should get this protection solely because of their position. As far as the First Amboy runoff, can you tell me, has there been any allegations, accusations of voter fraud or anything like what we saw in the general?
Nothing that we're currently aware of, nothing brought to our attention.
Thank you. I heard something about fishing ballots out of the box. Can you give me any more information about that allegation?
What was it again?
Mr. Katz alluded to someone trying to get ballots out of a box.
That was brought up at a previous meeting during the election that a mailbox and I won't say the town because I'm not 100% certain of the town, but that mail was fished out of a regular post office box and was found, in the street open. And then as part of that mail, there were 2 mail-in ballots that were opened. That was brought to our attention. Now I think I remember a little more quick. The commissioners then had to decide to
I
allow
think it
those.
was Metuchen, but I'm not
Metuchen.
sure.
It was Metuchen.
I think it was found in Metuchen, but I think the point, and again, I don't want to say the town, but I think it was in another town that the
We're
mail
not
was
sure.
from. So the commissioners had to decide for us to reach out to those voters and inform them that their ballots had been, tampered with or taken out of the box, and allow them to get a replacement ballot. So that was brought up during in one of the board meetings prior to the general election that you guys acted on.
So
That's what the prosecutors call.
I see.
Or the investigator.
The Postal
Postal
Service and the
Service.
FBI were investigating that, yes.
Sure, and so did those 2 voters end up being able to vote?
Speak up.
Did those voters end up being able to cast the ballots? Do we know?
If I recall, I think at least one of them was applying for a replacement. I'm not sure whether.
I can't say definitively. I know that we, in fact, reach out to both voters and inform them of that. I believe I actually spoke to one of them, and they were appreciative and did reach out to the clerk's office, but I can't say for certain the second individual. I don't know if I spoke to him or, I can't say for certain. But I know that we did reach out to both after the commissioners said that they would allow them to receive a replacement.
Okay, but the originals were not counted or not found?
No, they were found in the street. They were opened, exposed, and that the police and I think it was correct, Metuchen brought it to our attention, and then they brought it to the FBI's attention as well.
Thank you. I did want to ask about the Highland Park election. I'm curious as to why it's requiring a special election. It's to fill a vacancy of a councilwoman who unfortunately passed away in July, I believe. Why wasn't this election held in the November general election? I think there might have been some confusion or miscommunication between clerks' offices, or do you have any insight into this?
We don't know anything about it.
I think that question should be directed towards the county clerk or the municipal clerk. I think it's outside
Or
purview
Highland
to
Or Highland Park.
act on it.
Okay, yeah, I did speak to the attorney for Highland Park, and I think that there was some,
My understanding, in general, and that is not specific, is that if the vacancy occurs after a certain point, you can't have an election for that November. So it would be, you have the appointment. If the vacancy occurs early enough, you may appoint someone for the vacant period through the next year, and then you do have an election in November.
I think it was
But
early
I have
July.
no idea in terms of what happened in Highland Park or otherwise.
Okay. I'll follow up with other entities about that. Is there any indication of how the April 20th election is going to be conducted as far as
Excuse me, may I?
Yeah, Dad, go ahead.
Don't forget, our job is to administer these elections, okay? This question that has come up is a question that belongs in the clerk's hands of Highland Park and the county clerks. Our job is to administer. Give an opinion right now on our part, we cannot give one. Please, if you could, would speak to the Highland Park clerk and to the county clerk.
Will do.
We just administer.
Understood. Any indication on how the April election is going to be held? Will the new voting machines be used widely? Because then if so, education campaign has to start soon. If there's going to be massive mail-in, near universal mailing, that has to get started soon. Any indication?
We haven't heard anything yet.
The only thing we know is the governor's executive order that moved all of these various elections to that date. We have nothing, as far as I know, there's nothing further.
No details.
I know he's done another order on the petitioning process, but yeah, still seems like it would be good to know that to
It
prepare.
certainly would.
I was expecting it at the press conference yesterday. Didn't hear anything.
All right. There's an election for surrogate this year, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And will that be a full 5-year term, or is it going to be a partial term?
Ask the county clerk. It's not something that we would know. whatever ends up on the ballot is what we were told will be on the ballot in terms of the description.
Up to the county clerk.
I have no idea.
Okay, fair enough. I think Mr. Katz mentioned the charge of voter fraud against a man named Carteret. Can the board give me any information about how that person got the 2 ballots?
We can't comment on that.
It's under investigation.
Okay.
As Will Rogers said, all I know is what I read in the newspapers.
Well, I'm trying to get some answers for that, so.
All I know is what?
What I read in the newspapers.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then I do want to express extreme concern about what was done with the Democratic Party committee seats. I thought it was awful that both parties canceled the committee elections last year, and now the Democratic Party has decided to double the length of their terms and not hold a committee election until 2023. So I just want the record to reflect that as a Democrat, I'm not okay with that. Canceling elections is wrong, and it is a shame that voters in this party
As
won't.
Commissioner Frankel mentioned just a few minutes ago, we administer the elections in terms of running it. We don't determine anything in terms of things or what the respective political parties might make decisions on.
I understand,
We have personal opinions.
but to the voter, we showed up at the polls in 2019 and it said on the ballot 2-year terms. And those folks are able to give themselves an additional 2-year term without the voters having a say? That doesn't make any sense.
This is not the venue for where you're having a problem here, okay? And I just want to say that, okay? You can comment, you can say whatever you want, but this is not the venue. It is not with the Board of Elections. So you can say your comment,
Okay.
but it has nothing to do with the Board of Elections.
Okay, and I will say in light of that I do feel that the system is a bit of a problem, where it's not it's a system that's inherently tied to the 2 major parties. So just like you were talking about today, commissioners having the ability to have to sign off on everybody that gets hired, and there's no independent voices and no third-party voices in that discussion. It's only the 2 major parties. And so inevitably, some of the same people who are making decisions at the Board of Elections are the same people that are pushed for this awful anti-democratic cancellation of the elections. And so I want my voice to be heard here and everywhere else that that's not okay with me. And finally, when is the next meeting of this board? Is there a reorg?
You have the list with you?
I think it's March 4th.
March 4th. Another, if you give me a moment,
I
I
can't
can
look up
find it.
look up the calendar on my phone because it does fit.
I can look it up before you leave.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And so,
But Charlie, it'll be on the website, updated along with the agenda and everything else that the.
Cool. Cool. And so is there a reorg, or is that every 2 years?
No, every year.
Okay, March,
I
or,
believe it's March 4th, but I can't confirm that.
okay. Well, I'll wrap it up by just saying thanks everyone for their service, and, good luck and
That
be
March
well.
meeting is usually in the morning.
Yeah, our
11:30.
reorganization meeting are usually in the morning, so you just have to, it's not a 5 o'clock meeting.
Right.
So, check the website, and if not, then
Yeah, I'll just hang out and call. Sure, I'll hear it before I leave. Thank you.
I have 10:30 written down.
I think you make 11:30.
Tom,
So we have 10:30 written down for the March meeting.
Yeah, Tom is looking it up,
Swearing in.
Commissioner.
And I wrote it down from the original.
Swearing in and then
11:30, maybe it's 11:30.
we typically have both a reorganization meeting and then at least a short regular meeting afterwards.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the timings are.
11:30.
I have 11:30 also.
Thank you.
So it's 11:30, I guess. I thought so.
I know, I'm trying to say. I didn't hear.
It's good that you remembered, Chairwoman.
Pardon?
It was good that you remembered.
Well, it's better we show up earlier than an hour after the meeting, so.
Especially if you're up.
Yeah. Sylvia,
Yeah, I'm looking for the date.
I think we,
The second,
Oh, you have it on.
March 4th.
March
the
4th.
4th, yeah. Okay,
Same place
March 4th.
here?
Well, I guess that's to be decided.
Yeah, we'll be up on the website where it's, but we'll most likely won't be here in this particular location because the county college will be needing this room.
We can go ahead and ask for the date and reserve it.
Okay, I'll check the website. Thank you.
Do we have a motion to go into closed session, executive session?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
A minute, Commissioner Frank,
Yes.
Commissioner Katz,
Yes.
Commissioner Montanez.